guys, it's Lyndon. This is crazy. I've never done a YouTube video before, but there were heaps of questions on Instagram, and I have not had much time on social media since I moved to Australia, so I really just wanted to catch everybody up and let y'all know what's going on in my life. So I opened up some questions on Instagram and y'all asked some stuff, so I'm just going to be going through the questions today. And if you have any more questions, feel free to comment or message me on Instagram or whatever you want. Okay, so starting off, someone said the biggest difference between the States and Aussie, probably people driving on the other side of the road is really confusing because people drive on the other side of the road, but then that means they also walk on the other side of the road. So they walk on the left side instead of the right side, and you like physically run into people. If you're me, you physically like smack into people multiple times. It's happened, and I've been here for like 2 months, and it still happens all the time. Myers-Briggs type, I think it used to be ENFP, but I think I've gotten sort of introverted, so INFP maybe. How to develop good friendships and become a person people want to be around. A couple of different answers. I think to develop good friendships, you have to be a good friend yourself, and that will attract people to you. I think the most like Jesus we are, the most attractive we are, because that's like our truest form. That's the most beautiful thing about us. So I think getting closer with the Father and knowing more about Him just naturally makes you more attractive to people. Ask how you edit. I edit either on Lightroom or on VSCO. Very, very like natural things. I literally just turn up like exposure and saturation sometimes. Okay, someone asked how I found such good friends who are so devoted to Jesus. I think, especially being in YWAM.
Sorry.
Okay. Sort of similar as the other friend question, especially being in YWAM. When you are devoted to something, you sort of naturally attract people who are devoted to the same thing. So one of my best friends, Haley, is behind the camera, and she's so cool. So I think really being your truest self and being the person that you would want to be friends with you just automatically attracts people.
Okay.
There's a bug. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Someone asked how you maintain your joy. Is recognizing that your faith should not be based on feelings. It's about faithfulness. And so when you really don't feel like worshiping or praising or like being joyful or being happy, it's like actually my circumstances may have changed, may have not changed. I may have changed, may have not changed. My feelings may have changed or not changed, but God never changes. And the things that I loved about Him and how on fire I was and how joyful I was a while ago is still true about Him. So it's always something to be joyful about if you choose to be joyful about it. What does it take to be a missionary? Follow the Lord, man. God just uses our yes like crazy. You don't need to be qualified. There's no prerequisites to be used by God. It's just willingness. Boy tips. I think boys are great. Boys are a gift from God, but God is not, He doesn't call everybody to relationships. He calls everybody to a relationship with Him, and then like dating and engaged and married like sort of comes along with that when you are like fully devoted to Him. So I think just keeping your eyes on the Lord and then letting everything else fall into place, and not like pushing it. In Song of Solomon it says, don't wake up love before it's well rested. So like let things happen in the Lord's timing. What am I doing on my trip? So for 3 months I'm doing a lecture phase at YWAM Perth, Australia. And that means every day except Saturday and Sunday we have lectures during the morning, and then it really depends on what DTS you do, which is just the training school. My training school is media arts and photography, so we do heaps of artwork and workshops and stuff like that. And then the following 3 months is outreach, so we sort of take everything that we've learned through lecture phase and apply it towards the nations. So my team is going to Ghana for like a month, and then we're road tripping to Togo, which is another country in Africa, and then we fly to Malaysia and then back to Perth. Tattoos and the meanings behind them. I have 11 tattoos, so I'm probably gonna do a different video about that, and they all are mega meaningful, so that sort of takes a long time to explain. How do my parents feel about me traveling alone? they are so supportive. They love the Lord and they really trust Him, and so I've been really blessed to have that influence in my life. I'm also flying home in a couple weeks for my sister's wedding, so I'll get to see them then. Okay, what God's been teaching me lately, and it's like a normal, natural thing now to every day have this brand new revelation of the Lord. This past week was about fear of the Lord versus fear of man, and so when you actually fear the Lord, it means to see Him in awe and reverence, not like quite be afraid of Him. So that sort of blew up my mind. Like, they can't coexist. You can either choose fear of the Lord and to live for Him, or fear of man and to live for others' opinions and stuff. So that hit me like a truck. Advice for incoming YWAMers: take notes about everything. A day in the life with YWAM. That is crazy because we wake up at like 6 a.m. to do stuff. We have pretty packed day, but it's wonderful and I would not trade it. Outfit ideas: I literally live off of like 5 articles of clothing and then I borrow a bunch of my friends. So whatever you're most comfortable in, I would say wear, because comfort over fashion every time. Lessons I've learned through my relationships and what God has taught me about dating: you really can't rely on people, which sounds pretty bad and cynical, but what I mean by that is, like, people are sinners. Like, you are dating a sinner and your significant other is also dating a sinner, and so to put that pressure on each other of performance or romance or that kind of stuff, when like those are really burdens that we're not supposed to carry, we can't be perfect for people. So I think sort of grasping onto that and being like, hey, we both are imperfect people, like praising a perfect God, so how can we be more like Him and encourage each other in that. A couple people like use this analogy, but like if dating is a triangle, like you are on one side and they're on the other side, and then God is like at the top, and so if you both are pursuing the Lord, you're gonna meet up eventually. But if one person is pursuing the Lord and the other person is pursuing that other person, then you're not really gonna meet up quite right. Okay, someone said, do you wear makeup, and if so, what? I don't normally in the okay, normally day to day I don't wear makeup. I no hate if you do, I just would rather spend 20 minutes sleeping. Sometimes I do if I like have time and I feel like it, but I just don't feel like it. What's my favorite color? White or blue or green or yellow or
The whole
all
rainbow.
of them, just the rainbow. How to stay consistent in your relationship with God. I think accountability is really important, like having people alongside you so that if you start stumbling, they can lift you back up and get you back on the right track. Reject complacency. I think the devil speaks through complacency more than he speaks through like straight up temptation or straight up sin. Like he really uses like laziness or busyness even to distract us from God. So I think people around you that consistently set alarms and check up on each other and push each other is really important. Okay, next one. Someone said, how did I get over Chase? I think did you hear that?
Yeah, the birds.
Yeah, but he's right on top of this.
Oh.
Sorry, continue. In all the relationships I've been in, we've broken up because the Lord wants me to focus wholly on Him, not because my boyfriend was a bad person. So I'm actually really blessed to be friends with Chase currently. We do talk and talk well, like it's not weird and it's not uncomfortable. It's really sweet, and he's one of my really good friends, and I'm really thankful that he's in my life. But I think that it took a lot of healing from the Lord to move forward and move on. And I think getting over any relationship was hard, but I moved, so I kept myself busy. I really dove into my hobbies, art and the Word and finding God in it. There's this quote that says that God whispers through our pleasures and he screams through our pain. And so I think that's so important to really grasp onto, that like if you're in a pleasure right now, try to find God's whisper and reject self-sufficiency. But if you are in pain right now, know that God is screaming for you. How old am I? I'm 18. Why? Okay, next question. So, someone said, how did I decide to go to Australia? I think for a while, God actually closed the... Okay, I think the Lord closed doors of school for me. I couldn't even apply to college because I hadn't quite graduated. I didn't graduate when all my friends did. I actually graduated like this January, really recently. I just got my GED. So it's been a really hard process. There was a time last fall when I had not graduated yet, and all of my friends were moving out. We're getting accepted into college, and then we're moving to college in August, and I was like the only one back in Atlanta. I hadn't gotten the results back if I got accepted into my YWAM trip yet. So like seeing all my friends leaving and being completely alone and not going to college, not graduating, and then also not knowing what I'm gonna do, not knowing if I got accepted for my trip yet, was actually really difficult. It was a really hard season to walk through. I just think the same thing I sort of said before about if you're in the pain, like just try to listen more to God. Everything about YWAM and should I do it? YWAM is probably one of the best decisions I've made in the last year, probably in my life, honestly. It is such a life-changing, beautiful process that I'm just like unimaginably grateful to be a part of. The fellowship here is amazing. YWAM Perth is magic. Like, that's sort of all I can say. It's amazing. You should definitely do it. That's my advice to anybody who's thinking about doing it. My Enneagram type is a 7. I am the epitome of a number 7. Yeah. Got into art and what inspires me to create. Both my sisters are really into art, so I just had that really good inspiration around me all the time. I worked at an art studio back home. Also, it's really bright outside. That's why I'm hiding behind this backpack, because the sun is really bright and I can't see. And yeah, Pinterest is amazing. I worked at an art shop, and my sisters are really artistic, and God inspires you a lot. Pinterest is amazing, but my one thing is, if you are gonna be inspired or copy someone's art on Pinterest or on Instagram, please give them credit. Don't sign your own name to it, because part of being inspired by something is also giving credit where credit is due. I think I've been on both ends of the spectrum, where I have used other people's art for inspiration, but I have also been copied, and it does not feel good. So if you are looking for inspiration, please either get it yourself and then work really hard to make it beautiful, because everybody has that capacity to make beautiful things. But if you do use someone else's design, please give them credit. Using social media as a positive influence and energy. I think that verse about out of the mouth, the heart speaks. And so really whatever is in your heart will be expressed through your social media one way or another. A lot of people are influencers on Instagram nowadays, which is great, but Jesus did really well with the word of mouth. Really, really well. I think that it's more about who we are as a person, and then letting your social media reflect the values and the way that you treat people in person. Someone said, how do you make friends everywhere you go? Alicia! This is my bunkmate. What's up? Hi, what's your name?
Ronald McDonald.
And where are you from?
Antarctica.
And what's your favorite color?
Yellow.
Wow. You heard it here first. And then what's something that God's taught you for the whole 7 weeks?
Hard one. I think that he is the one who loves me, and that's the most important thing.
Amen. Well, thank you, sister.
Oops.
Love your insight. Bob Goff says that God doesn't send love letters, he sends people. And so I think if you take advantage of little amounts of times with people and really lean into them and get to know them and just be a really good listener, it actually produces really sweet friendships and a really great community all around the world. YWAM deets, how much it costs, what the kingdom bringing work is like, etc. Love this question. YWAM is incredible. They love the youth. They really focus on raising up young people who are aware of world issues but who are on fire for the Lord, and they train them up in that way. It depends on what base you go to, and it depends on what DTS you do. So lecture phase costs a certain amount of money, and then outreach phase costs a certain amount of money depending on what base you go to and where your outreach is. Your life ever seemed dry? Yeah, for sure. I think it's sort of difficult when you get really busy with things to keep up a prayer life. Faith is not based on feeling, it's based on faithfulness. Also recognize, like, God is a living, breathing thing. He speaks to us, and he loves to speak to us like children. And so sort of give him space to say that. Don't just pray and talk and then be like, okay, I'm done. Like, it's a conversation, and so you need to let him have room to talk. Your thoughts on social media, pros and cons? Haha. Yeah, so social media has been a really big thing, a really big tool. It's given me a lot of experience with people and evangelism and sharing the gospel and getting to know people and stuff, and it definitely has its pros. The Lord's been speaking to me the last couple weeks about see it before you say it, if that makes sense. So you should see in my life that I love Jesus before I tell you, hi, my name's Lyndon and I love Jesus. Like, you should be able to see in my life encouragement and love and beauty before I say it. We'll be remembered by the way that we love, not necessarily the words that we say. And again, like, the heart speaks through the mouth, and so it is important what you say, but it's more important that that actually matches up with where your heart is at. Rejecting comparison over social media, it is a highlight reel. It is so superficial at times and surface level, and but it's not the app, it's the people, and it's the way that the people choose to use it. And so if we are a community of believers, we all can link arms and join together and grow people in confidence and grow people in encouragement and humility and love. I think it could really change the game of social media for sure. Said boyfriend relationship and coordination to Jesus relationships. Having a relationship with God is so much more important than having a godly relationship with someone else. Like, that's the whole point that he died on the cross and he tore the veil, was so that we wouldn't have to have like a player in between. And so yeah, if you are only going to church because your significant other is going, or you're only praising or listen to worship music because people are watching you, or because that's what your boyfriend does, like, that's not, I don't know, I don't feel like that's really gonna grow you. Not as a condemning thing or as a mean thing, but like, all I want is the minimum, all I'm gonna get is the minimum. If I want the image and the surface level and the likes and the comments, that's what I'm gonna get most times, if I really put my heart after that. But if I actually cry out to deep with deep, and I say, God, like, all of me really needs all of you, he will time and time again give it. Before you are someone else's, you are God's. You are adopted because of the great love of Jesus. More important than dating or likes or follows or the image or the romance even. Romance will die out so quickly. I've been there. I know it personally. But like, the romance that God has for us, the agape love that is so deep and meaningful, like, he deserves what I have. Like, he deserves my free time. I think that you worship what you give time to. So if you are giving a lot of time to your phone, if you're giving a lot of time to your friends or your boyfriend or whatever that may be, that's fine. Like, that is a beautiful thing, and those are gifts from God. But if you're spending more time doing that than you are with God, that's where I think something needs to readjust, so that you get the full promises and the full relationship that God has to offer. I don't really know what else to say, and the sun's going down, so that's sort of a really quick Q&A of my life in Perth and how good God is. Really, I just have been so deeply impacted by this personal and intentional love that he has for me, and I am getting goosebumps, like, thinking about it right now. It's just so powerful, and it just breaks every expectation that I could have had. And it's not, I want to be really, really clear that it's not just sunshine and rainbows. Like, he so deeply convicts you, and it takes a lot of repentance and a lot of forgiveness and a lot of redemption, but it brings forth so much beauty and so much glorification to him when we actually just give our weaknesses to him and move forward and let him carry us. And God talks so much about his burdens, as he calls them in the Bible. Like, his burden is light and his yoke is easy. I just think about like this giant animal that's carrying a yoke on its shoulders, and it's attached to like an ant. And the ant's like swinging side to side because it can't even touch the ground. Like, it's just so much smaller in comparison to this like huge creature. But like, that's the gospel, man. Like, it's going along for the ride and being like, I want to be step by step in line with what God is doing in the nations and what God is doing over social media and in millennials and in young kids, like standing in truth and in faith and in love. Like, I have never seen it. Like, the gospel is a wildfire. That's sort of my rant for the day. All I have to say is you are loved by an incredible creator that is so wildly beyond your vast imaginations, and it's beautiful, and just rest in it. You didn't earn it. I didn't earn it. I could not earn it. Yeah, so if you have any other things that you want me to talk about or think about or pray about or whatever, please comment them. Please message me. My Instagram is Linden Height. And yeah, that's all. Have a great day.